Hi, good morning everybody. Thank you for attending the second of our webinar series. Today we're going to be looking at telematics and IoT. Our presenter today is Tom Rafferty. He is the Head of Innovation at Coefficient and he's going to run through his presentation with you today. If you've got any questions throughout, if you can pose your question to me on the webinar and we'll answer questions at the end. So all that leaves is for me to hand over to Tom. So over to you. You should be able to see Tom's screen just in a second.
Thanks, Alison.
Okay, thank you.
Just let me know if you can see the screens okay, if that's coming up.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, on you go.
Okay. Excellent, thanks Alison. Okay, hello to everyone on the call today. Hope you're all well and thanks for joining. Some background, I'm Tom Rafferty, Head of Innovation and IoT. So welcome to the first series of Coefficient webinars. Our initial session will cover IoT telematics, focusing on fleet management, driver safety and compliance. So over the course of the webinar, I'll cover the following topics: from plug-and-play hardware, vehicle tracking and analytics, cameras and safety, fleet maintenance and vehicle inspection, through to live reports and alerts, and we'll touch on the third-party integration through developer APIs and NetSuite integration. So with a real focus on technology in the webinar today, enabled through some of the technology aspects. So in terms of IoT, a typical platform or application has many layers, such as devices, sensors and things, as well as data management, security, protocols, network comms and infrastructure, as well as performance management software. So there's a lot involved in terms of an IoT platform. So to that effect, Coefficient have partnered with one of the world's leading edge industrial IoT companies, Samsara. Samsara is a global leader in industrial IoT with a mission of increasing safety, efficiency and sustainability of operations that power the economy. Samsara's portfolio of complete IoT solutions combine hardware, software and cloud technologies to bring real-time visibility, analytics and AI to operations, serving over, I guess, around 10,000 customers across a diverse size of industries, from transportation and logistics to field service, food and beverage, energy, construction and utilities. As integration specialists, we as Coefficient have now been in partnership with Samsara for, I think it's almost 9 months now, developing IoT solutions for real-time actionable insights. Samsara was founded in 2015 by the co-founders of Meraki, and they're now part of Cisco Systems, cloud-managed networking leader that powers, I believe it's over 2 million networks worldwide. And they have a team of over, I think it's over 1,500 employees, headquartered in San Francisco with offices in San Jose, Atlanta and London. And we've actually visited the London site on several occasions. So Coefficient IoT is a technology-driven business. We're exploring opportunities in fleet management applications as one of the fastest growing areas for IoT adoption over many transport sectors. As a partnership, we both have a strong culture of innovation, which means that collectively we are constantly improving and developing new solutions, and some of which we'll touch on today. So, unified platform for fleet management, driver safety and compliance. So based on feedback that we've had from various customers in the transportation arena, fleet and transport organizations ideally would prefer to have one single place to manage every aspect of their fleet operations. So combining data from a variety of resources such as GPS gateways, HD cameras, wireless sensors and mobile driver apps, where all of this data is centralized into a single, easy to use dashboard application that can be utilized to support business requirements, from real-time location to hours of service compliance and a lot more, all in one place. So transport managers can access all of these insights to get end-to-end visibility into their fleet operations so that they have the information they need to improve the way they manage their assets and also drive improvements within the business operations. And some of these enablers include real-time GPS tracking with full stack telematics, remote tachograph downloads with live analysis and driver hours and infringements, internet connected high definition dash cams, delivering video-based driver safety and on-demand video retrieval. Preventative maintenance is a key area, as well as vehicle diagnostics and inspection. In terms of compliant temperature and cargo monitoring through FSMA indications, and that's something I'll touch on as part of the additional, in terms of internet sensors that can be added as part of the overall solution. Also with a comprehensive list of standardised inbuilt reporting, and I'll show some details on that within the live demo, providing real-time analytics and alerts, such as vehicle and driver safety, fuel efficiency and costs, even things like idling hours, temperature and humidity. And one of the key areas that we're working on just now is time on site reports enabled by geofencing. So safety is an increasing focus in large fleets. We know that accidents are up, increased by approximately 15% between 2013 and 2018. And we can see there's a high correlation between the increased smartphone ownership in terms of drivers being alert in the cab. Costs are higher, commercial HGV insurance rates are increasing almost 20% year on year. And we know that fleets are investing in safety. The global automotive camera market is forecasted to grow at 30% growth rate through 2024. So looking at the ROI, focusing on the left-hand side visuals for a second here, we can see a snapshot, and this is actually within the dashboard, of a harsh event where a current HGV driver is cut off by the vehicle in front, suddenly changing lane at an upcoming roundabout. Below the live footage, we can see vehicle telematics profile that highlights the sharp drop in speed and also applied brake pressure on the pedal. And again, I'll demo these when I go into to the live session. But in this instance, I've actually muted the in-cab audio so that the driver wasn't too impressed by the driver in front. So moving on in terms of the ROI. So we're looking at reduction in losses. So lower accident-related costs contribute to better insurance premiums in the future. Mid-range vehicle fleets reduce false claims using video evidence as proof. And again, we can see a return on investment over a short period of time. There's an example there, regional food distributor, so almost immediate payback in terms of the installations. We see fewer incidents, harsh events reduced by half after starting a video-based coaching program. And that's one of the key areas that I'll touch on as part of the platform, as part of the Samsara offering. So moving on to the IoT hardware. What I'll cover just now is looking at vehicle gateway and dash cams. And again, this can cover a wide range of different assets and vehicles, from heavy equipment through to light commercial vehicles. So in terms of the solutions that we have here, just some of the hardware areas, from GPS gateways, dash cams and wireless sensors. We can see a vehicle gateway, and it's indicating there with light and heavy duty interfaces. Now, depending on the vehicle type, we can either connect into the vehicle's FMS port, if it's an HGV vehicle, or through the onboard diagnostic port for a lighter vehicle, all the way through to things like live back of tachograph. So depending on the configuration of the vehicle, there's multiple connections that we have available through connection into the vehicle gateway. Moving on to dash cams. So there's options for front and dual facing AI dash cams, and I'll cover a lot more detail about the technology within the camera. That's an easy installation through a USB port directly into the GPS gateway. And also looking at wireless sensors, where we can determine wirelessly temperature, door and cargo sensors. So indication, load levels within a vehicle, and even for refrigeration vehicles, we've got plug and play. It's basically a stick and track, as we call it, and that maps directly to the GPS gateway through the Wi-Fi interface. So on the asset side, just on the bottom row there, we've got asset gateways for trailers, equipment and unpowered assets. There's even things like solar powered, the gateway itself that you can see on the left hand side there. Again, that's to supply additional power to the vehicles, be it they're unpowered. And on the vision side, we've got for 360 vision solutions, there's internal side and rear connected cameras, and that plays a big part in things like FORS accreditation for vehicles in terms of vehicle safety. Moving into some of the other technologies in terms of RFID technologies that's been applied to wireless driver IDs and passenger reader cards. Again, it's all part of the overall solution. So plug and play hardware, we say here installs in minutes, and it really does. I mean, I've done many installations from small vehicles through to heavy industrial cranes, and we're looking at 10 to 15 minutes in terms of an installation. So there's a 3-point plan here. One connect gateway to diagnostic port with a Y-splitting cable. Now, one of the things that Samsara will offer is in terms of the VIN or the vehicle identification number in the vehicle. If Samsara actually have that information, we can then immediately determine what cable type is suitable for that vehicle. Number 2 is looking at installation of dash cams and accessory sensors. And number 3 is downloadable driver app through iOS and Android. And I'll touch more on the driver app functionality as I go through the presentation. So looking at the VG34 vehicle gateway, it's basically an advanced sensor platform for fleets. The device itself is about the size of a deck of cards, and basically it provides operators with real-time location and analytics with telematics sensor data, providing tachograph analysis, things like maintenance and diagnostic, even vehicle routings, as well as fuel consumption and efficiency. Some of the highlights for the gateway include high precision GPS with real-time visibility. Extensible platform works with Samsara wireless sensors, camera modules, driver IDs, and Wi-Fi devices, and that's some of the areas that I covered earlier there. It includes a high-speed 4G LTE Wi-Fi hotspot. And just looking at with reference to some of the accuracy in the vehicle tracking, the advanced positioning system within the gateway reads from multiple independent satellite systems, including GPS and GLONASS, global navigation. The gateway has an internal antenna for discrete installation. It can be fitted with an external antenna to improve signal strength, but that's not normally, I've not used that in terms of any installations, but the option is there if required. 4G LTE cellular connectivity with a fallback to 3G, where the coverage is unavailable in the 4G range. And one of the key things that I'll touch on as well is in terms of security. All internet connectivity is secured via military-grade encryption. So in the situation where there's no mobile network, offline storage is available in the gateway via built-in flash memory that basically logs data and resends when internet connectivity becomes available. So ideally are basically providing true offline capability for that device. So vehicle accuracy is maybe a question as well that we'll look at telematics solutions. And one of the things that from the accuracy, from the details, and I'll show some examples of that, we can get to down to about 3 meters accuracy. And I'd like to give you an indication just on the wee graphic there that I'm showing there. So this is Samsara's proprietary helicopter view. And you can see the vehicle actually traveling down the road. So that's just an indication that, I mean, in terms of other, looking at solutions, this is actually unique in terms of the overall accuracy for GPS telematics. Moving on to the CM32, which is a high definition internet connected dash camera. Designed for safety, it's dual facing cameras simultaneously capture driver and outward facing video and automatically uploads and analyze footage of accidents, harsh driving and other events of interest. In the back office, intuitive cloud-based software provides reporting tools that enable fleet operators to implement safety coaching programs, prevent accidents and lower costs. So the highlights in this piece of technology, HD dual facing camera with basically it's got quality enhancing HDR, a high dynamic range, an infrared LED for night recording. And we can see one of the customers we've got specifically that's very important in terms of his vehicles are out at night and there's a lot of, for example, deer on the road. And this is something that's really supported in terms of his insurance premiums. So other areas include automatic upload of incident footage plus on-demand video retrieval. On the device itself, there's edge processing to enable real-time event and object detection, built-in audio speaker for hands-free voice-based coaching. And again, one of the things, it's easy to install, there's no hard wiring. Like I said, it's just a USB port connection to the vehicle gateway. So on the technology side, on the video front, we have high definition video at 30 frames per second, basically capturing up to something like 40 hours of 1080p footage, and that can be extended or configured depending on the video quality. Automatic uploads video footage to the cloud, comprising of events such as harsh braking, acceleration, turning and crashes, with detailed safety incident reports, including accident reconstruction. Another area is looking at driver safety rankings with scorecards providing, and I'll touch on this later, but driver gamification. On-demand retrieval over the air based on time or location. So fleet managers can determine video content based on a location for their vehicles. One of the key areas to touch on as well is about the configurable audio coaching. Plays spoken alerts during unsafe driving behaviour. For example, things like excessive speeding, unbuckled seatbelts and unattentive drivers. So just to give you an indication of the quality, first of all, the quality of the information and a snapshot from the dashboard. If I click on the image, just to give you an indication when this kicks off. So within the dashcam area, we can see video footage for internal for the driver and also looking at external. And we can also see the location mapping of the route. Incidentally, if you look at the snapshot of the images that are below the video window, we can see every 5 minutes that there's a video snapshot taken of the actual route in question for the driver. Okay, so I touched on earlier regarding security and reliability. One of the things I want to cover in just in terms of the context of the data that's captured. So in terms of customer data, we can see the capabilities shown on the dashboard on the right-hand side graphic, with things like live video, engine diagnostics, fuel profiling, route mapping, and data analytics. You can even see here the route plan with the fuel, consumption and the fill levels, when we see refueling incidents. So one of the things, as I touched on earlier regarding security and reliability, one of the key areas about Samsara that takes data security and compliance very seriously, and I'd mentioned about the security level being SSL 256 military-grade encryption. And it's obviously a system that's designed for security as the owner's coming from our networking and data background being Cisco and Meraki. So the application itself, scalable cloud architecture, supports tens of thousands of devices per customer. So we can go from very small fleets up to fleets of thousands of vehicles or more. Modern systemized design security, so we've got end-to-end encryption, hardened data centers. We've even got over-the-air firmware updates that can be sent to the devices. In terms of security and management features, single sign-on, two-factor authentication, role-based administration, etc. And again, one of the key areas, robust data privacy policies, and obviously GDPR compliance is a key factor. So moving on, we're all aware of the Amazon model, where basically they've created a world where consumers have high expectations in terms of visibility and speedy deliveries, for example. So Samsara features like live location sharing help to increase visibility into where fleets are in real time, allowing customers to give live updates on a delivery status, for example, from route assignment to on-site delivery tracking. We can see the timeliness of each stop, be it a collection or be it a delivery. This information is also available to every driver via the mobile driver app, such as current and later jobs, on their daily schedules. So just to cover some of the details on the screen there. So we've got assigned routes to particular drivers or vehicle types. We've got schedule information, and we can see here on the timelines. So depending, and this is an area that we're moving into with a few of our clients just now, where we have the capability to look at proper route planning and route optimization. So we can see here's the scheduled time of arrival for particular deliveries or stops, as we call them. And then the right-hand side there is just to give a wee snapshot of the driver information that he would see on his on the driver app. So that gives on his jobs, looking at the delivery points and times associated with it. So in terms of new features, a key area of constant delivery or constant development for Samsara. So working in partnership, we're constantly taking feedback from customers and sending it to Samsara, whereby requesting new features that have been developed and rolled out almost every month. New features are available through standard licensing, and there's no additional cost for any of the new developments that are coming in, and they're launched to customers automatically through the dashboard on a regular basis. And that's through the What's New section in the dashboard, and I'll touch on that later, where customers are able to see the newest features available as soon as they become live. So these include things such as driver coaching programs, asset tracking, utilization and dormancy. And one of the areas that we can see here in yellow is where we've got an EU or a UK involvement in some of the new developments, and that includes things like some of the asset gateways, where we've got an EU, a UK variant. So for the gateway, we can see new developments such as things like route optimization, remote taco downloads with live infringement analysis, and utilization of RFID technologies, and a lot more technology releases in between that. On the mobility side, we see proof of delivery documents with digital signatures, live in-cab text-to-speech messaging, vehicle inspection, and even through to the new release of vehicle sanitization. And I've got some details on that in a second. So paperless cabs enable new business opportunities. So as I mentioned, within the gateway, there's a Wi-Fi hotspot built into all the vehicle gateways, allowing drivers to stay connected through the Samsara driver app. The app offers convenient features for drivers, including things like ability to maintain a paperless cab by completing hours of service and DVIR inspection reports directly on the app. Other functions include things like dispatch, vehicle routing, and driving team, so quality scores for driver gamification. So the drivers can then see, how they're performing as part of the ongoing coaching sessions. Are we seeing improvement in terms of things like a reduction in harsh events, harsh braking, harsh acceleration? And all that information is available through the driver app. So we're progressing with route optimization as a key area for large vehicles, and that takes into account things like road restrictions, such as low bridges, narrow routes that are basically unsuitable for heavy goods vehicles. And that includes things like turn-by-turn direction. So that's a key area of development that we're looking at right now. So moving on, I touched on earlier in terms of one of the new or latest releases, sanitization tracking. So in light of COVID, sanitization of shared equipment has become a frequent part of many fleets' safety routine. In the current environment, to ensure new sanitization practices are being followed, functionality has now been released to allow customization of electronic DVIRs. And what I mean by DVIRs is the driver vehicle inspection reporting. And that's on mobile, so that pre and post inspection inspections incorporate specific cleaning and sanitization procedures. The feature provides fleet managers basically with the visibility to into sanitization status of their assets, and ensures the safety of their drivers and customers. So just touching on some of the visuals that we've had here. On the left is a snapshot from the Samsara dashboard that's given, whether it's a pre-trip or post-trip inspection. We can tell the vehicle type. We can look at who was actually, involved in setting up the inspection, when it was signed, the duration of that particular inspection. Now, inspection duration is one of the key areas, and we're working with a few of our customers in terms of times, because if we see a duration of inspection that's in the matter of seconds, then we know that that's not been, performed correctly. So that's something that's been constantly monitored. We can also look at the level of defects, whether they've been resolved or not, and whether, basically is the vehicle in a safe status to move forward with. On the right-hand side is looking at the actual app itself, where we're creating the DVIR. On top, we've got things like vehicle images, so we can look at front, back, driver passing, so we can take snapshots as part of the inspection. And we can see here there's a new defect, vehicle needs sanitizing. And we could add that, and that's immediately logged, within the Samsara dashboard. And then the relevant, remedial parties would be involved in how to resolve that. Okay, distracted driving jeopardizes safety, profits, and brand reputation. So Samsara cameras use artificial intelligence to detect distracted driving and lower the risk of dangerous and costly accidents, improving things like driver safety and decreasing incidents, reduces costs, and also helps to protect their brand reputation when their fleet is out on the road. So in terms of the technology, we've got upward of a 70-point AI facial recognition system that also detects driver profiles and certifications aligned to specific vehicles. So in this instance, we can see, is the driver attentive? We can determine the vehicle speed, and also things like, time until brake. So the remaining driving time is also captured. So this just gives an indication of part of the safety and compliance programs, which I'll cover in the next couple of slides. So this one here is where we're looking at exonerating innocent drivers. One of the things I'm going to cover just in a short video is reducing harsh events and collisions, exonerating drivers and reducing claims, and protecting the brand. So I'll just kick this video off. So how to exonerate innocent drivers with Samsara. Your driver is blamed for an incident on the road and says it wasn't my fault. Without concrete evidence to defend your drivers, fleets spend millions each year paying insurance claims and fighting long legal battles. Fortunately, Samsara's internet-connected sensors and HD dashcams capture the full story of what's happening on the road and in the cab. Driver exoneration is part of the complete platform for fleet safety, efficiency and compliance. Samsara automatically detects harsh driving events and uploads data to their safety inbox, where you can see at a glance when an incident occurs, who was driving and other key details. The system streamlines the workflow by making it easy to flag events that need further review, and you could instantly access high-definition dashcam footage to get more context. And in this instance, you can see the right turn only details on screen. So you can quickly confirm whether or not your driver was at fault. You can share video evidence with insurance and police to exonerate innocent drivers and avoid paying insurance claims that for accidents you weren't responsible for. So for accidents, basically we're covering HD video, analytics and sensor data to protect drivers. So moving on in terms of keeping in the light of the safety aspect for Samsara, covering advanced driver assistance for safety. So what is advanced driver assistance? So ADAS systems are designed to enhance vehicles for safer and better driving. Studies have shown that ADAS technology, such as forward collision warnings, can reduce rear-end crashes by almost 28%, fatalities by around 44%, and injuries by almost 47%. AI dashcams with computer vision analyse the road and cab for high-risk behaviours, harsh events and crashes. When avoidable risks are detected, in-cab alerts warn drivers so that they can adjust behaviour. Incident footage is also auto-uploaded to the cloud so that transport managers can review and take action. One of the things I want to cover here, just in terms of the three areas for forward collision warning, unsafe falling distance and distracted driving detection, and I'll give you some snapshots on how they work. So forward collision warns the drivers they're at risk of a rear-end collision so that they know when to slow down. So when you're seeing the elements on the screen there's an audible warning that comes in the cab to give the driver some immediate indication that there's going to be, a rear-end collision that's coming through. Moving on to unsafe falling distance, alerts drivers when they're following other vehicles too closely or tailgating at speeds in excess of 45 miles per hour. So one of the key things is why is that important? Tailgating or falling too closely at high speeds is a leading cause of rear-end collisions. And moving on to distracted driving, reminds drivers to stay focused on the road when they become distracted. And I touched on earlier about smartphones in cabs, and we can see the issue there where the driver is non-attentive. So why does that matter? Distracted driving is the leading cause of avoidable driving incidents, causing thousands of deaths and injuries annually. So it's a key issue. So FMCSA studies show that 87% of all commercial motor vehicle crashes were the result of the driver behaviour or driver error. But fortunately, studies have shown that driver safety programmes, combined with onboarding monitoring systems and dashcams, can reduce severe safety critical events by almost 59%. So moving on to telematics live demo. And again, this is some of the examples I'll show with some of the customers that we're working, and again, the partnership with Samsara. I'm going to cover some of the ideas in HGV fleets, and just to give you an indication, some of the snapshots on there will cover the dashboard within the platform, given vehicle information. We've got the camera solution installed. We can look at some of the diagnostic information, fuel levels, for example, and obviously the route plans. Below that, we can look at, as we touched on earlier, on the helicopter view in terms of the accuracy, so we can see up to the second, basically the location, GPS location of the vehicles. So key areas is looking at telematics, cameras and safety, and I'll touch on the maintenance and the DVIRs. So bear with me a second and I'll just dial into. So indication, this is just to give you an idea of one of the customers we're working with just now in terms of the dashboard. On the left-hand side, we have navigation, which covers things like your assets, drivers, proximity, through to safety, compliance, maintenance, dispatch, fuel and energy, documents and reports. One of the things I can do within the navigation, and again, this is one of the new releases, which makes it far more intuitive in terms of navigating your way around the dashboard. The navigation system on this is absolutely excellent. So for instance, looking at safety reports, coaching draft, dash cam, video retrieval, and so on. So to give you an indication on the map side, we have some map options in the top left where we can look at, we could alter the map base. If we wanted to look at a satellite-based map, we can actually change that. I'll click on the default just in the purposes of the demonstration. Other areas we can overlay is current traffic areas. We can even overlay weather. So we can see in terms of some of the issues or maybe some of the harsh events that come through, was it weather induced? And again, that's tracked and logged as part of the system. Addresses and geofencing. I touched on geofences earlier. Now that's one of the things that we can determine, things like, when a vehicle breaks into a geofence, time on site, reporting and so on. And I'll touch on that just to give you an indication of how to set that up. So we can see there's a vehicle there in motion. If I click on just on the map legend for a second, just to give you an indication. So we've got things like green arrows, moving vehicles, online vehicles, all the way to offline vehicles and assets. So vehicle here, I can drill in just to give you an idea. So I can click in live to a particular vehicle. Give me a second. So in here we can see the route plan all the way from Glasgow, and this is, again, we can change the timeline. So for instance, I can look at things like speed and fuel level over that duration. If I can click on speed for a second, that will give you will come up. And again, one of the things is we're running this over a period of a month. So again, it's in terms of the processing power, that was actually quite quick in terms of getting information back. And we can see the the speed profile as the vehicle goes through his route. On the left-hand side here, we've got details about the vehicle itself, registration, vehicle type, and we can even do things like live sharing. So we can send an indication to an incoming customer to give them an indication of a live ETA. We have some snapshots in terms of the route itself, and we've also got the capability here to take a new snapshot. So say, for example, the fleet manager wanted to know at that instant in time, he can actually take a current snapshot. Snapshots are taken every 5 minutes. So one of the areas that we've got here in terms of the diagnostics, where we've got engine state, engine hours, we don't have any diagnostic errors in terms of the engine light. We can look at the odometer in terms of the mileage. So we can see this vehicle is over 300,000 miles on it. We can see the fuel level and DEF level in terms of the diesel performance. One of the areas I can look at as well is looking at the diagnostic information. So this is coming live from the vehicle, where we can look at ambient temperature and again a whole range of telematic information. What are the issues there in terms of fuel? We can set up alerts. If fuel level, for example, goes below 10%, then an alert can be sent or notified, back to base. So just to give you some more details in terms of the background, in terms of the technology in here. So trip history is another area where we can drill into, let me just pick an example. So I can look at dash cam footage. And again, one of the things, you'll see the quality of the images. One of the things, I think this is actually the older cameras before the new CM32s, so but the image quality is still excellent. And again, you can see where where the vehicle is, and again how what that relates to the particular road route plan. Moving into some of the details on safety as a key aspect of the presentation. And this gives us, I touched on the safety inbox, where we can look at some of the harsh events that's coming through. So there's one there. I'll pick on the first one. Look at a harsh brake. And we can see a particular incident that's come up. So this is en route from, I believe, from Glasgow all the way around to the Mulligan tyre. So it's I think it's actually just the Arica there, and I'll just run the sequence just to give an indication of why there was a harsh event. So again, we can see that there's a deer running across the road, for example, and I know that's been a key issue for this customer, especially during nighttime driving. So just to give you a profile in telematics, we can look at the speed, accelerator details, brake off, and we can see during this, the duration here, in terms of the time, we can see the brake has been applied and the reduction in speed. So again, that's something that can be, again, fed back to the fleet manager in terms of, it was an incident, that was captured, and again, how that's managed going forward. And again, that can be applied to a particular safety manager in terms of any driver coaching capability. Okay, let me just back into some of the safety reporting. So this is given an indication over whatever duration we're looking at. So it can give us safety scores for particular drivers and as a fleet in general. So we can look at the total distance, total time driven, number of harsh events. And again, one of the things that we're seeing is these actually reduce over time as drivers become more aware, of the quality scores. And again, here we can see things like driving into the number per vehicle type. And again, this can be associated to drivers, but I won't deal into the driver situation just now in this situation, but it's given a driver score, with each vehicle. We can look at the number of times that we've been over the speed limit and also the number of miles in terms of driving distance. There's also part of the coaching platform, as I said, where we can send harsh events or alerts to a particular, in terms of, reviewing that with the driver, say at the end of the week, in terms of his performance, in terms of driving. So that's part of the coaching platform. We've also got things like dash cam, and we'll get visual review, which we'll touch on. So this gives an indication of immediately where that snapshot, where all the vehicles are. We can see which are moving and which are switched off. And we've also got the capability there for video retrieval. So this gives us the ability to look at situations where I want to pull in video at a certain time and date. And this is I won't run through this in terms of time, but it's to give you an indication where we can hyperlapse a 10-minute video sequence and indicate where there was an issue, or an incident that's actually come up as part of the safety program. So moving quickly into I want to touch on compliance for a second. So I'll jump into one of the other dashboards here. And if I look at the compliance side, let me just touch on that in a second. So what this covers, driver hours report, where we can get historical and live driver hours. So we can look at, here's a list of drivers, and I've had confirmation from the company that we can actually use this in terms of presentation. So we're okay in terms of, getting granted access to the information. So we can see driving time, working time, resting time, availability, and obviously any time in violation. We can look at any infringements that's actually raised, and we can see there's one of the drivers has an insufficient work break, and I think that was for a matter of minutes that it was actually over. And I can drill into the details and see that. Now, normally that information would take, I think it's several days before that comes back from, say the likes of Tachomaster. We can now, through the Samsara platform, get that information in real time. And that way we can coach drivers, on any issues, as soon as they come back into, back into the office or back into the yard. So more on compliance, let me just check if there's any other details that I can touch on here. So yeah, a new area there is looking at remote tachograph and tachograph explorer. So remote tachographs gives us the capability to download from the tachograph the information that would normally take where you get a driver card, insert it in, and then send that away to, say, Tachomaster. This is the capability here that we can download the reports real time. And to give you that information, I'm looking at, say, Tachograph Explorer. This is a new feature that has been released. Say, for instance, pick a driver, and I can look at during the, once we get some, let me just change the timelines on that, so I can do it. Okay, So here we go. Over the past duration that I've selected there, we can see any infringements, driver hours. We can look at time until breaks, looking at remaining driver time that's available, number of extensions. And again, this is all related to driver compliance. So we can see things, say for instance, just to give you an indication of the data that's coming through here. So we can see rest time, we can see work time, and we can see drive time. So there's in terms of loss of compliance, we need to make sure that drivers are taking regular break intervals. So that's a new feature that's been released as part of the platform. So the area in here I'm going to touch on is looking at maintenance status. So one of the things that we have the capability within the Samsara platform is to have vehicle diagnostic information. So in there we can see an issue where there's a diesel particulate filter. So some error has been generated. Now one of the things that we've set up, particularly with this customer, is that these notifications can be sent directly to the main dealer. And the main dealer is involved in the admin process in terms of any remedial action. So we've got that in one unified platform. And again, that's making it a lot easier for the fleet managers to maintain his fleet going forward. So maintenance logs is an area that we can drill into. So we can see they're actively looking at the service completion. So they're actively, I mean, this is probably in the last couple of weeks that we've given access. This has been set up. So they're using that to great effect in terms of their management of their service in their vehicles. So just to give you an indication of that, we have each vehicle type has been set up with a schedule, a maintenance schedule. Now, whether that's oil schedule, filters, and so on, engine services. So they can set up different service types for each vehicle and different service durations. And again, this gives us an indication of what's upcoming. So again, we can set notifications to the fleet manager, maintenance manager, to give them an indication that this particular vehicle is due for a service in so many days' time. And again, we can drill into some of the details in here. So we can see some maintenance notes, odometer details, service date due, and so on. So that's all inclusive, within the platform. Another area to touch on is dispatch. So, for example, we can see the map of where the vehicles are spread about. And say, for instance, we have a job, for example, that comes up and say, I'm just going to look at, say, Fort William, for example. Fort William, make sure it's in the UK and not anywhere else. So what this basically gives is an indication of, put it right in the center there so that we can see proximity, we can look at distance, and we can look at driver duration. So we know that a particular driver has sufficient drive time, to get to that job. And again, driving for compliance. We can also determine the fuel level of particular vehicles as well. So we can see for this one's in the yard, it's 56% fuel. One of the areas that we're focusing on just now is looking at route planning, recurring routes, and planned versus actual. So we can look at the efficiency of the planned versus actual route stops as part back to that Amazon model that I presented earlier. On fuel and energy, this gives us an indication of fuel consumption per vehicle, fuel efficiency. So one of the key things there is we can look at things like idle time and the cost associated with drivers idling their engine. And again, that's one part of the driver coaching program as well. We can also look at fuel purchases, tie in with fuel card installations. So that way we've got a direct correlation when a vehicle was fueled up. And again, it's back to unification, where we're one platform that manages all that. A new function that's coming through recently is on eco-driving, and this is an area where we're looking at some of the performance rating, torque, idling, anticipation. So this is a new feature that's just been released, and we're going to get some more details on that as we go forward. But that's going to be a key area of saving costs, within the business. Another area is looking at some of the documentation, where we have things like proof of delivery documents, where we get digital signatures, for example, on the mobile app. So that gives us an indication. Rather than, again, it's back to paperless cabs. So that's a kind of key area that we're interested in moving forward with as well. So on the report side, a whole range of standard reports within the dashboard, from activity, driver compliance, and safety. But if I click on the dashboard, just give you an indication of some of the details. So we can look at driver distance, driving hours, safety violations, and again, this is all drillable. so we can drill into, and again we can look at particular driver types. Again, part of the coaching program, we can then drill into some of the details, and again looking at fuel usage, fuel efficiency, and idling hours. So that's an indication. One of the areas, the last point I was going to touch on is some of the areas around in-cab messaging. So we can look at, again, this is on the mobile app, so we can see that's actively been used about some of the, and again, one of the things is if the drivers get the mobile app connected, that we can then convert that text to speech in the cab. So again, it's great for communication within the fleet. An area that I'm touching on just now is looking at alerts. So we can see all the alerts that's coming through, and again, they can be sent to whether it's fleet operations or whether it's back to main dealer. We can configure who the alerts are basically sent on to. So I click on the configuration area, we can see some of the alerts that's been set up within the dashboard. And again, there's a whole proliferation of alerts that can be set up from geofencing all the way through to fuel levels and stuff. So if I click on geofencing, just to give you an indication, and what I can do in here is I can set up, say for instance, I'm looking at the waste, basically the yard, and I can see that there's a geofenced alert. Now, what I can determine here is if a vehicle goes inside or outside that geofence, there's then a notification that could be sent out. And again, this could be, if the alert is over a certain duration, we can send contact information to, arrange. There's also part of the integration in terms of notifications that could be sent to other third-party systems. So that's a very useful feature for determining things like time on site, within each of the collection and drop points. Just moving back, let me see, just to give you an indication of some other areas. One of the things we're working closely with main dealers on some of the vehicle engine faults. So again, that's already set up and working well. Even things like DEF levels for diesel vehicles. Again, there's audible alerts that can be sent back, as well as fuel levels. So that's a quick overview of some of the alert functionality. Covered some of the reports, and last but not least is looking at some of the what's new detail. So let me just give you an indication. I touched on earlier some of the new developments that's coming through as part of the platform. So again, this is available to anyone with login. It can give an indication of, and we can see the date of, that's over the last couple of days, some of the new technology that's coming through on eco-driving. So just basically getting up to speed on that. Again, it gives you some details, fuel and energy settings, improved video retrieval. So there's a whole range of new updates. Report CSV download. Again, that's covering some of the details on the driver app. Panic button is a new feature. And again, that's one of the things about helping keeping drivers safe. So there's a lot of new updates that's coming through. And again, this is all part of customer feedback, where Samsara will go away and, if appropriate, develop new features, to improve the performance of the system. Okay, so let me just delve back to the presentation for a second. If I get my, let's go, let me just read this. Okay, so back into the presentation, and I'll just bring up, yeah. Okay, so integration, NetSuite and Samsara. This is a key area that we're looking at in terms of ERP to IoT, where we're looking at back-end systems. And that's one of the key areas where, so in order to act as a complete and fully integrated solution for customers, Samsara offer integrations with many third-party systems. So us as an ecosystem partner with Samsara, we integrate via open APIs so that customers are able to develop bespoke integrations to best support the business requirements. The areas that we're covering just now is looking at things like in terms of job management, work orders and so on, utilising Oracle NetSuite. We're also in discussions with PTV Group in terms of high-end route optimization, particularly in the HGV space for things like low bridges and restricted routes. There's also other integrations with payroll systems and data warehouse applications, whether Tableau or Power BI or these applications in terms of analytics. So closing up, we're looking at some of the integration work that's going on just now with NetSuite. So we can see here a list of some of the jobs that's been developed are set up on NetSuite. The plan there is that we then integrate with Samsara in terms of the geofence location of the jobs. So again, as I said, jobs managed in NetSuite. There's an API link to Samsara for the route optimization of these particular jobs, and we update NetSuite with the routes per job for each of the vehicles. One of the key areas that's coming through on this is time on site reporting. And again, that's through geofencing, where we can determine whether a vehicle arrives on site to when it departs. And potentially that can be developed as part of an automated invoice in our billing process. Now that's the capability that NetSuite brings to the integration process. And also we're looking at optimized route planning and stuff as well. So touching on nearing the end in terms of time, so synchronized route planning is a key area as well for improved customer communication, live ETA alerts, and also looking at some of the advanced GPS tracking and analytical reports. I've touched on some of the route timeliness earlier, so that's a key area that we're exploring with many of our customers. Also covered some of the alert management earlier. And again, one of the key areas for us is integration with the main dealer repair centres and getting those filtered alerts through to main dealer for ongoing maintenance and looking at even things like predictive analytics. So that closes in terms of the presentation. I'm just determined on time there.